Greetings, comrades. Today I'd like to talk about the major worldwide protest set to take place on October the 15th and what we as Marxists can do to take part in these events. These protests will be the latest part of the 15M movement, which began on the 15th of March in Spain and has since spread across Europe and America. Also known as Real Democracy Now!, the movement began as a series of massive protests and occupations of public spaces in response to the failures of capitalism, bourgeois democracy, and the endemic corruption found in both of these systems. Generally speaking, the movement has consisted of peaceful civil resistance and demonstrations, except when the state itself has used violence to subdue the protesters. For example, the excessive use of brute force against the occupiers of Syntagma Square in Athens, which included, according to one of Greece's top chemists, the use of illegal chemical weapons alongside normal tear gas and aggressive hand-to-hand attacks by riot police. Similar scenes have been witnessed across Europe and America and are to be expected. After all, the state is the vehicle with which one class oppresses another and is enforced by the bodies of armed men. The role of the state and its armed body of men is to protect the private property relations of the bourgeois capitalist system, and they will use violence to suppress any force which threatens them. Now, in Syntagma Square, the response of the protesters was to create barricades, to throw rocks, take part in hand-to-hand skirmishes, and throw the tear gas grenades back at the police. And I feel they were successful in maintaining the occupation, repelling the police, and generating sympathy for the movement against the police amongst the wider population. Similar violence last week in Wall Street has caused outrage across the US and has even led a group of US Marines to volunteer to join the protesters to protect them from the police. Now, this is an extremely positive development and should be greatly encouraged. Cut off from society via military bases, discipline and propaganda, it's essential we do all we can to bring the soldiers and the sailors onto the side of the people. Now, though often initially inspired by false concepts such as patriotism or nationalism, these men are nonetheless driven to protect the people and will often side with them, as we saw in Libya and in Egypt as well, and we're beginning to see in Syria. And they may well be angered by the idea of police brutalising civilians, and our propaganda towards them should therefore reflect this concept. Now, so far the movement has presented itself as subscribing to no particular ideology. However, this is probably a facade mainly in place to maintain a united mass of participants who may be of diverse tendencies. This idea is expressed through the movement's apolitical image and its hostility towards those promoting a particular political organisation or party at events. Instead, the movement has been forming a programme via democratic people's assemblies and conferences, electing members to various groups focusing on specific tasks, debates, online blogs and journals, and various forms of social media. Prevalent ideas at this time include more direct democracy over politics and the economy, equality and social justice, internationalism, anti-racism, environmentalism, solidarity with struggles against dictatorships, and anti-war sentiments. So all kind of basic liberal lefty stuff, but a pretty good start, I think. Now, in terms of class composition, the most active elements of the movement appear to be young workers, unemployed and students, with older workers and trade unionists joining after the protest later on as they pick up and gather strength. Now, where the movement has really taken off, for example in Spain and Greece, support for the movement seems to be very widespread. Now, people from a wide variety of political dispositions have taken part in the protests, from left liberals and social democrats, Marxists, libertarians, anarchists and socialists. Some members call for reform and others call for a complete overthrow of capitalism. However, all who take part are in agreement that the current political system and economic system are failing the world over. Now, as I stated earlier, there's been a general rejection of particular parties or ideologies. Therefore, Marxists seeking to interact with the movement must take a more subtle approach. My suggestion is that since the movement is in its early stages, we should just focus on propagating specific concepts in debates and conferences and when talking to participants. And I believe these should include the following. firstly, to dispel the idea that the economic crises are solely the fault of bankers and the financial sector, that the entire capitalist system is corrupt and should be torn down and replaced with a system that puts people before profits. Secondly, that the bourgeois democratic system is also corrupt and should be replaced with a direct democracy over politics and the economy, extending to democratic control over the workplace. Thirdly, the class nature of capitalist society, the contradictions between workers and capitalist classes, the nature of the state as the vehicle of oppression between classes, and the need for revolution to overthrow the ruling class. Fourthly, the relationship between capitalism and imperialism, imperialist wars and occupations, and other related issues. Fifthly, that real change in society can only come about through the independent self-action of the workers. We cannot ask change from the bourgeoisie. We have to make it happen ourselves through our own effort and self-organisation. Now, party flags are generally frowned upon, but a plain red, black or red and black flag is an acceptable symbol to bring to a march, demo or occupation. So I encourage comrades to do this to signify general allegiance to the working class. Now, the whole movement is a great example of the ability of the working class to organise itself democratically and independently. Thus, we have a lot to offer this movement. It could well contain the embryo of a truly revolutionary movement. And I urge comrades not to sneer or write off the movement simply because they do not necessarily match all our beliefs at this time or wave the same flags as us. This is a mass movement of people very angry at the current economic and political system. And therefore we have a duty to take part, to share our knowledge and opinions, and help it go as far as it can. Therefore, we should all go to the nearest protests and occupations on the 15th of October, and I encourage as many of our friends and family to take part. We have 2 weeks, which is plenty of time to promote these events. Now, I shall be taking part in the occupation of the London Stock Exchange on the 15th, and I hope to see some of you there. If you're looking out for me, I'll probably be wearing a black shirt with a Lenin badge, possibly that beret I watch my other videos, and I'll have a big red flag. So yeah, if you happen to be down there and you recognise me, come and say hello. I'll be taking interviews with people. I'll be just filming any marches and events, any police action should it take place, and just trying to record the feeling of the whole event. So, like I said in a previous video yesterday, if you're going to one of these events, bring a camera down, get some interviews, anything crazy happens, record it, just be our eyes and share whatever you learn, any information or data you gather, put it on the internet so we can all look at it, analyse it. This is your chance to take part in something big. And as I said, there's no point going there trying to promote your particular political party. At this point, just concentrate on those general kind of ideas and concepts and just talk to people and engage in the debate. Anyway, thanks for listening. Red salutes, comrades.